Hello friends, welcome to our YouTube channel with a new crime case. December 13th, 2025 began as a typical cold winter afternoon in Providence, Rhode Island. The kind that makes students at Brown University rush to finish final exam preparations before the holidays. But that afternoon, tragedy struck one of America's most prestigious Ivy League campuses. At about 4 p.m. Eastern, a gunman opened fire inside the Barris and Holly Engineering Building, killing 2 students, wounding 9 others, and thrusting the tight-knit Brown community into profound shock and grief. This script explores the incident, victims, law enforcement response, ongoing investigation, and broader impacts of this harrowing event based on authoritative reporting and official updates. Setting the scene, campus, context, and calm before the storm. Brown University is located in the historic College Hill neighborhood of Providence, Rhode Island. Known for its open curriculum, diverse student body, and vibrant intellectual climate, Brown attracts students from around the world. On December 13th, the university was deep into final exam week for the fall semester. A hectic time when classrooms fill with students preparing for their last tests before winter break. The Barris and Holly Engineering Building, which houses Brown's School of Engineering and parts of its physics department, was a hub of student activity. On this Saturday, an optional review session for an economics final exam was taking place inside a large classroom just minutes before the shooting began. 4 p.m. Assault begins. Students were gathering in a first-floor lecture hall, engaging in discussion and studying when the unthinkable happened. A masked gunman, dressed in dark clothing, entered room 166 inside Barris and Holly and began firing. According to investigators, the shooter discharged over 40 rounds from a 9mm handgun. Eyewitnesses described a scene of terror, students ducking beneath desks, scrambling for cover, and rushing toward exits. The sudden racket of gunfire echoed through the hall, ripping through what should have been a focused academic atmosphere. Some students were caught mid-conversation or preparing notes. Others were just entering or leaving the room when violence erupted. The human toll, victims of violence. The impact of the attack was swift and devastating. Fatalities. 2 Brown University students were killed in the shooting. Ella Cook, a 19-year-old sophomore from Alabama and vice president of Brown's College Republicans. Muhammad Aziz Umurzukov, an 18-year-old freshman from Virginia, an aspiring neurosurgeon. Both were remembered by friends, classmates, and local community members as bright, engaged young adults with promising futures, now tragically cut short. Yandis and survivors. In addition to the 2 fatalities, 9 other individuals were wounded. Most were students seated or standing nearby at the time of the attack. All were rushed to Rhode Island Hospital for treatment. Several were initially listed in critical but stable condition. Others sustained injuries serious enough to require hospitalization. Some victims were discharged after treatment for less severe injuries. The wounded ranged across academic years and disciplines, each facing long recoveries, both physical and emotional. Initial response: panic, lockdown, and law enforcement arrival. Immediately after gunshots rang out, Brown's Department of Public Safety and the Providence Police sprang into action. Campus alert and lockdown. At approximately 4:22 p.m., the university sent its first alert through the Brown Alert System. Active shooter near Barris and Holly. Students and staff were instructed to shelter in place, lock doors, silence phones, and remain hidden until further notice. Brown's Emergency Alert System, which delivers urgent messages to phones and email systems, played a key role in informing the wider community of danger and guiding them to safety. The weather that day, cold and snowy, added discomfort to a lockdown campus, but kept many away from windows and potential harm. Police and FBI deployment. Providence Police, joined by local and federal agencies, including the FBI and ATF, Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco and Firearms, flooded the scene.
Within minutes, dozens of law enforcement officers were canvassing the building, sweeping hallways, and searching nearby streets for any sign of the shooter. Hundreds of officers eventually participated in the operation, combing through surveillance footage, interviewing witnesses, and securing the building and surrounding campus areas. Confusion and early uncertainty. The early hours of an active shooter incident are often chaotic, and this case was no exception. Misinformation and shelter orders. At around 4:50 p.m., Brown University mistakenly sent out an alert stating that a suspect was in custody. 20 minutes later, the university retracted that message, warning the campus that the shooter remained at large. Another alert reported gunfire near a different street, later retracted as unfounded. These fluctuations added to the fear and confusion as students, faculty, and families waited anxiously for clear guidance. Campus and community reaction. Students described fear, disbelief, and solidarity. Many hid under desks or locked themselves in offices and classrooms, while others elsewhere on the campus sheltered in nearby shops, bookshops, or classrooms until authorities declared the immediate threat over. Nearby residents were also urged to check their home cameras and Ring devices for footage that might assist investigators. With Brown's campus partially outfitted with security cameras, but many academic hallways without coverage, outside recordings from residents became valuable investigative assets. Investigation and suspect search. Security footage and person of interest. In the days following the shooting, investigators released several pieces of surveillance footage from neighborhood cameras showing a person of interest, a masked individual dressed in black, walking several blocks from campus prior to the shooting. Law enforcement urged the public to help identify this individual, offering a reward of up to $50,000 for identification, arrest, and conviction. Despite widespread video releases, the face of the suspect remained obscured by clothing and a mask, complicating efforts to identify them. Police asked local businesses and residents to share any footage from Saturday afternoon that might provide clearer images. Person of interest detained, then released. Authorities briefly detained a man in his 30s as a possible person of interest early Sunday morning following the shooting, but after questioning and evidence review, police released him without charge, clarifying that he was no longer a suspect. This moment reflected the complexities of the investigation as law enforcement balanced urgency with the need to avoid wrongful detention. Connection to other shootings and broader inquiry. As investigators continued their search for the shooter, they also began examining possible links to other gun violence incidents, including the December 15th murder of an MIT professor in Brookline, Massachusetts. Later developments confirmed connections between the Brown shooting and that tragic killing, underscoring the wide reach of the investigation and the national concern over connected violent crimes in December 2025. Response from leaders and public figures. Local, state, and national leaders weighed in quickly following the shooting. Rhode Island Governor Dan McKee expressed heartbreak and urged public cooperation with investigators. Brown University officials emphasized the importance of security, community healing, and support for those affected. National figures, from elected officials to advocacy groups focused on gun violence prevention, issued statements expressing condolences, raising questions about campus safety, and calling for measures to prevent future tragedies. Impact on Brown community and campus life. The emotional and logistical aftermath of the shooting was profound. Campus departure and uncertainty. With the shooter still at large in the immediate days after the incident, many students chose to leave campus early for the year-end, returning home to family amid anxiety and fear. Some described Providence as eerily quiet as classes were cancelled and students packed up their lives for the holiday break ahead of schedule. Trauma and coping. The trauma of surviving a mass shooting resonates long after the incident itself. Students, staff, and faculty began processing their experiences through therapy, community gatherings, and even social media outlets like TikTok, where survivors shared their stories and advocated for change. Mental health professionals highlighted both the benefits and risks of social media engagement in the healing process. safety protocols, campus security, and lessons learned. Brown University's emergency systems and security infrastructure came under intense scrutiny following the attack, particularly the campus's camera coverage and how quickly alerts were issued. Brown officials clarified that while the university operates over 1,000 cameras, many interior hallways and classrooms are not covered for privacy and security reasons. They also explained decisions behind emergency notifications, such as choosing targeted alerts over sirens to avoid inadvertently driving people toward danger. Questions about how an armed individual gained access to a locked or limited access building also prompted policy reviews about access controls and exterior door security, especially during high-traffic exam periods. Ongoing investigation and hope for closure. Despite intense efforts by local and federal law enforcement,
If you want more real U.S. crime stories told through facts, silence, and truth, subscribe to Silent Witness Stories.